So before getting into today's topic, I wanted to share my warm up. This is like my general warm up. I literally just take a resistance band. I start doing face pulls, external rotations, band pull aparts and whatnot. And I start doing tricep push downs and some hammer curls with the band. And I do very high rep, very fast pace and whatnot, just to kind of get blood to the joints and the muscles, and just the groups related to what I'll be training for that day. And so today, I did half reps. So I did 10 sets chin ups, 10 sets push ups. And so with the chin ups, I did 10 half reps, and then with the push ups, I did 20 half reps. And it was pretty interesting. When it came to the movement pattern, of course I was able to do each set much faster, and I was able to do a lot more reps than I would, as opposed to doing 5 pull-ups at a time or doing 10 push-ups at a time. I was able to double that because I was literally only going half of the range of motion. And one thing too is you're kind of in a way, at least with the chin-ups here, you're kind of in a way isolating your biceps a bit by having your biceps do most of the pulling, because that top range of motion when doing chin-ups or any pull-up, at all, variation at all, that's going to be a lot more bicep, a lot more arms and forearms, than it is your back, right? It's the lower range of motion when it comes to chin-ups that a lot of your back is involved, but that top range of motion, that's where most of your biceps are. And I got a pretty good pump in my biceps. And when it came to the push-ups, I felt it a lot in my shoulders, a bit in my triceps, and a bit in my chest. One thing people will mention that when you do these half rep type style, in that bottom range of motion when doing push-ups, that you're supposed to feel a lot more of your chest because you're keeping tension on your chest. Personally, I didn't really feel this. For me, it was a lot of shoulder and a good amount of tricep. I didn't feel much of my chest at all. And maybe because I was doing diamond positioning then the whole time or for most of the sets. So that could have been why I felt more triceps as opposed to chest. So I'm just gonna have to try and experiment with half reps and see how I feel the tension and whatnot depending on arm placement. But yeah, it was very interesting doing them. It was kind of fun as well. Uh, I don't think when it comes to half reps, or what people might call shorties, right? I don't think they're the best for wanting to learn form. But in general, they're pretty useful. When I first started out working out and I couldn't even do a pull up, I would do half rep pull ups. Right, I wasn't able to get my chin to the bar, but I was able to get my head to the bar, my forehead to the bar, and then at some point I was able to get my chin over the bar. And then of course that's just how I do my pull ups now on the regular. So half reps can be very useful, especially for a beginner, when you're not able to do that full range of motion yet and you don't have the strength to. So they're definitely gonna help you allow to strengthen those positions, and to also kind of strengthen your explosive power, right? When you're coming out of shorties, you have to kind of again, you have to stop halfway, especially when it comes to chin-ups. So you're pausing at the bottom. You're not letting yourself go all the way down. You're holding and keeping tension on the muscle. So what you're getting is the time under tension effect, which is going to allow blood to keep flowing through that area and not let the muscle rest, right? When you're coming down, in the lower position of a chin up, all the way down, your biceps aren't working at that point, right? It's not until you start pulling is when you get the biceps working. And if you're doing short range of motion, you're definitely gonna feel the biceps. I also felt my forearms a good amount too, as I was doing this, because they kind of stayed in that form of flexion. Another thing with the push-ups, or at least going back to the push-ups here, it wasn't that hard. It was pretty easy. It was interesting. I felt a good amount of tendons in my as I was doing the movement. I was getting a lot of blood flowing there. Another thing to mention, is that if you want to make sure you have pretty good straight arm strength, then I wouldn't say that you should do half reps all the time. I would say you should do them every now and then. I don't intend to just do half reps from now on, but I do intend to kind of throw them in the mix of things whenever I feel like it's necessary to do so, or just whenever I kind of want to, just to mix it up. And of course, still experiment with how half reps have an effect on, like, which muscles are getting worked or how the muscles are getting worked, because this was like more of an experiment I did today, just to see how things work, right? And I had a feeling that, like, me doing half reps with the chin-ups, in the top range of motion was going to target a lot more bicep, right? So in a way, this is kind of allowed for my back to rest, right? And not to be as targeted and fatigued. So then, the next day when I just do pull-ups, or when I do whatever type of pull-up variation I might do tomorrow, it'll allow me to kind of do it with a lot more, just a lot more intensity, and not feel like I'm going to end up going to failure or fatiguing, right? But yeah, with the push-ups, it's very interesting. It feels very springy. That's one thing. Like, I feel like I said earlier, you're kind of getting that explosive power, because you're bouncing in and out of that, like, that bottom range of motion, or the top range of motion, depending on which variation you'd want to choose. And I would say that I felt like it was a lot of arms, and just in general with both the push-up and the chin-up. It seemed like, this was kind of like an arm day in a way, like I was just training my biceps and my triceps. But yeah, I would say try them out. Just see how they work for you. If you feel like as if you can get a lot from these movements, or if these movements have done a lot for you, there's a lot of calisthenics guys on YouTube who swear by doing shorties, or, short range of motion movements, and do them all the time and have pretty good physiques. So try them out yourself. Of course, I would still say do full range of motion, because I would say that doing full range of motion, like, movements, is going to build a lot more mobility and a lot more strength over time. But when you're doing shorties, you're kind of like still having the strength, but you're building it in a specific range of motion. So in a way, you can kind of target which range of motion you're weak at. For some of us, right, especially when beginning, our weakest point in the pull-up or in the chin-up is going to be at that top range of motion, from where our arms are at 90 degrees and then to where our chin has to be over the bar, right? That can be a difficult position for a lot of people to get into, especially when starting out. So if you're doing shorties in that top range of motion, then you can build up the necessary strength it would take for you in order to actually do a proper chin-up one day. Same thing with push-ups, but specifically for the top range of motion, right? The top range of motion for a pull-up might be the easiest part, but when you're getting down to the ground, getting your chin to the ground, or getting your chest to the ground, that's the part where people struggle up, because they can't push up from that position, right? So you can practice doing both formed ranges of motion. You can practice doing the push-ups where you're closer to the ground, or you can practice to where your body's just at the 90-degree angle, or your elbows are at the 90-degree angle, and then push from there. So there's so many ways you can implement shorties, just to kind of allow yourself to have that specificity, so you can build strength in those areas that you lack strength. It's very important for us to try and just try different things and experiment with different things instead of writing them off. I'm pretty sure you've, like, seen a bunch of YouTube videos about, like, why you should never do short range of motion. And, like, you're like, okay, I'll just never do short range of motion. And you never even try it out yourself to see how it would work. Yeah, just experiment, just try many things, right? Try many things. Don't think everything is a waste of time, but also be very critical of what it is that you're doing. Peace out.